Thank you guys for joining us for Embracing the Journey, and our heart is to come to you from our living room, just to let you know that Jesus wants to intersect the everyday moments of our lives, and he wants to meet us there and impact our routines and even how we parent. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. If you aren't a parent, Whitney is actually going to connect Bradley football to parenting.
Wrong person.
I'm going to do that actually. Sorry, dad joke. But I'm going to do that. And so, look, all of us, most of us, maybe not all of us, but most of us are investing in the next generation in some way. So we believe this conversation can help you. And in fact, on Sunday, we had a conversation about parenting with Josh and Julia Morrison and Kristen and Corey Arp. And we released a follow-up podcast. Encourage you to check that out if you're interested. But we'll start with the ages of our boys in case you don't know us, and then dive right into some struggles. So
we have Liam, and he's 2.5. And then we have Oliver, who just turned 1. So we're just in that toddler and crazy stage, I feel like. But
19 months apart.
Yes,
19 months apart.
That's right.
So what are some struggles that we both have?
Well, I think, every season, as I've talked to parents, every season comes with its struggles. But what we are in right now is just really the training phase, which is what we call just teaching them, especially with Liam, teaching him to say, yes, ma'am, no, sir, instead of yeah, or
listen and do.
Listening and do. So just listening to our voice and hearing us and acknowledging that he hears us, and then doing what we ask. And then, just for Oliver, who's just 1, it's just, teaching him things like boundaries, which is what we call it, but, not touching the outlets and just climbing on things, which, that's hard. Cords,
yes,
messing with those. So we are just, I feel, in constant training all day, every day. There's always opportunities for us to learn through it, but also we're just always, teaching and, training Liam and Oliver. So it can be exhausting, I feel like. But what we have been taught and what we have learned is that if we do this on the front end, hopefully it'll get easier, as they get older, which I know you'll still have
different struggles,
but just teaching some of those, the foundations, I guess, of listening.
I love that. And the funny thing is, one of the struggles for us is actually just being consistent in what we're teaching. We've been working with Liam, like Whitney said, on not saying yeah.
I just did it.
And you're going to hear it in us the rest of this time. So we're like, why does he say yeah all the time? And it's like, because of us, because we say yeah. So we're working on that, and I think yesterday he corrected his grandmother. He corrected Grant's. So he's getting it, but we have to get it too. And so it's like modeling those things, correct?
Right. Yes. Yes.
Oh.
And it's not that saying that is bad. It's just the way that sometimes it's.
We're trying to teach him to be polite.
Yeah.
And the most polite, respectful way to respond to people is with yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. And so, I just said yeah. Anyway, we're going to move on from that. You may hear that the rest of the time. I think a struggle that I've had is there are these moments that I just have no idea what to do. And I feel completely powerless, completely almost useless at times. I'm the dad, and I'm like, the bag of tricks I have, my tool belt, like I've used everything. It's all lying on the floor and it's still broken, I tangibly think about when they're little and when they're crying, there's like this checklist. Okay, do they have a dirty diaper? Are they hungry? And when I get to the bottom of that checklist, I'm like,
here you go, Whitney.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm so sorry, Oliver. I'm so sorry, Leo. I don't know what to do. So I think that's been one of the most challenging aspects, is those moments that I just feel completely helpless and powerless.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I think, we're not really in it as much right now with Liam, but there was a stage in the last few months of just tantrums, or just, getting angry and trying to figure out what to do, how to help him, because there would just be times when he couldn't calm down. And so he's learning to express his emotions. And so as parents, what do we do, you know?
Yes.
And so we were trying to figure out what was the best thing to do for our family, what was the best thing to do for Liam, because I know Liam and Oliver might be completely different. So I think those moments, when you're talking about that, I remember specifically just thinking, trying to stay calm, which is, you're a lot better at that than me. And so just not overreacting and getting frustrated and angry, but trying to be calm and speak to him. So I remember that, of just trying to, and there's still some times that happens, but he's able to communicate a little bit better now when he's upset, or you know.
It's good.
So tantrums, especially during that time of just feeling helpless.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what they want. I don't know what they're crying for or whatever.
It's really good. And I think as parents too, you can feel like, am I going to mess them up? Because there's so many layers to that. It's like, okay, well, we want him to be able to express his emotions and get that out and not suppress them, but he needs to be able to control his emotions. So it's like, it's very easy as a parent to get inside your head.
Yeah.
And that's where I think two things come to play, like remembering we've got to trust God.
Right.
Like, as hard as this is to grasp, Jesus loves our boys more than we do. And we just need to follow his word and anchor our parenting in his word and trust him. And I think the other thing is we need community. And I think about phone calls or times sitting down with Dawn and Jason Cox, phone calls or a Bible study or really a book study on parenting. Kristen, her uncle wrote a book, and so just working through that with Kristen and Corey and two couples from other churches, like just having community has been absolutely huge. Being able to ask like my parents something or ask your mom something. I mean, we could not make this without people coming alongside us, right?
Yes, just the people that are a little bit farther in the journey, or maybe they're even their kids aren't at home anymore. But it's just been really nice to have when those kinds of things come up and we're just at loss or we don't know what to do, or maybe we feel like our kids are the only ones that are doing it, and we can get in our heads of like we're the only ones, but that's not true. There's
right.
Just being in that community has been so good for me to take that pressure off as a mom of I'm messing it up or I'm doing something wrong or all the thoughts that might go in my head in this motherhood journey. I think that's been really great to just send a text to Kristen, who was on, as you refer, she was on the podcast and on our Sunday talk, of just being able to ask her questions, and she has all these resources and she can point me to things, or empathize with me. Sometimes we just want people to empathize and say, hey, we know you're in a tough season, or whatever. So that's been really great to have people who are in that journey with us in parenting. And then it's also been really great to have people who might not have kids but are loving on our children and giving us breaks and just coming over and playing with them for a little bit, or saying, hey, go, Whitney, go for a walk, go for a run, Todd, Whitney, go for a date, just to have those people that are intentional in our lives and letting them in to see. I think at the beginning I was nervous to let people in, to think, oh, they're judging me, or I'm doing things wrong, or they might think, oh, I never want kids because my kids, are acting this way. But I've just been thankful for the grace that people have been giving us, especially in this season.
It's really good.
In this stage of life, of just coming alongside us and supporting us in that way. So
yeah, I think that's really good. And it's simple things like Nene and B letting Liam and Annie ride around the campus after community group Monday night, and that's Nathan and Melinda, if you don't know their parent names, but they're like, there's people in our lives that maybe society wouldn't label parents, but that we consider parents. They parent our kids, and like we are just so grateful for their investment in us. And again, like we couldn't do that alone. Like, so if you are somebody that you feel alone, like dive into your church family, whatever that church family is, because I think there are people there that want to be the church to you and want to come alongside you and want to help you. And we've just found that. And I think too, I learned a lot about parenting from Bradley football. The connection. Yes.
Is that why you got your outfit on?
Well, also it's game week. Come on, go Bears.
Okay, right.
Week 1. I think a lot of us are excited about high school football being back. But I just think about watching Scott Ford, one of our coaches, take his guys to eat, invest in those guys, watching Coach Gideon hold his guys to an incredibly high standard while loving them so well. And then just Damon just creates this family atmosphere throughout the whole program, and it's very similar to what Coach Gideon, I mean, just like there's this high standard, but he loves you. And I remember him even just challenging us as coaches, like, hey, if you're really hard on a young man during practice, like, make sure you're walking off with him, affirming him, letting him know you still love him, that you're just coaching him. And I think that's incorporated even to how we discipline. Like, when we discipline, we're not mad at them, we're doing it because we love them. And so we need to follow that up and make sure we affirm them, make sure that Liam and Oliver know that we're loving them. So honestly, like, if you're not a parent, like, and you want to be a parent someday, you never know what kind of training you're getting just from the environments that God has put you in. Because I had no idea that coaching football would shape the kind of dad I am, but it definitely has.
Oh, yeah.
So, and let's end with this, just what's a special moment? Because it is hard, but there's also those unforgettable moments. So,
right. Yeah, I will say one thing that I absolutely love, and Oliver, you know, he's one, so there's not there's been some really special moments, but one of my favorite thing right now is I'll just say, Oliver, can I have a kiss? And he'll just come in and just plop his mouth on my cheek, or, you know, on my mouth, and it's just, he knows. And I just love that. I just do it probably way too much because I just like that he knows to do it, you know. So that's really special with Oliver. And then with Liam, something that I've just tried to like tuck away in my brain to just save is one Sunday morning you were speaking, so we were watching you, and he came. You asked us to pray and get on our knees if we felt comfortable. So I got on my knees, and Liam saw me, and he was actually eating in his high chair, and he asked to pray with me. He wanted to get down and get on his knees, and he held my hand, and he just stayed there for the time of the prayer. And that was just, you know, whether he knew what we were really doing or not, I believe that was just a moment, a special moment of realizing too that he sees what we're doing, you know, and he sees that act, and so it was just a kind of a special moment for me in that time. And so
I absolutely love that. I think two things come to mind. One repeats itself a lot, and one is we incorporate apologizing into how we do discipline because we think it's very important to be able to own and come back and say, I'm sorry, and it's something we try to practice. And so we'll apologize to them, and sometimes I'll apologize to Liam, and I'll say, Liam, it's my fault, and he'll go, no, it's my fault. I said, no, it's my fault, Liam. No, it's my fault. But like, for him, apologizing isn't this huge deal for him to, even if he doesn't fully understand what my fault means, like, it's just part of like his rhythms. And so that really encourages me, because I think for so many people, it's so hard to say I'm sorry. And we want him to be really, really good at that. And so when he does that back, this is amazing. And then a couple weeks ago, my other moment that I tucked away is way less spiritual than yours. But I'm not sure where you were at, but the boys had just woken up from a nap, and I had Oliver on one arm. I was laying down. I had Oliver on one arm and Liam in the other, and I was just tickling them both. And they were laughing, and I was laughing, and in my mind I just felt like this is a glimpse of heaven. Like, this is an intersection between heaven and earth because of the joy of just the kingdom of God that I experienced in that moment for my boys. And I was just like, heaven. So I don't know, that's a moment that I'll just tuck away. I mean, I can see their smiles and hear them laughing right now as I tickle them. So
that's cool. Yeah, and I just think, you know, if you are a parent, you know, and you have questions, like, we'd love to help. We're just in this journey, but we can point you to people if there's some things, you know, hey, how do I do this, or how do I, you know, whatever you're struggling with. I just think we want to be there together, and I think that this is just a time, especially during this season, that we all might feel very isolated and feel very alone. So just know that the church wants to help.
And to be there for you.
And to be there, yes.
So. I love that. Well, thank you guys, and we will see you all next week.